Hello, my name is Jocelyn Vowles, and I am a junior in the teacher education program at Boyce College. The discussion of literacy encompasses a wide range of topics, so it is important that we are teaching our students how to be competent in many different skills. The two we will discuss today are consistency in tense and fluency. Both of these contribute to accurate reading comprehension, so they should not be overlooked even though they may not be as common. First, let's discuss unnecessary shift in tense. This is a student example of this common error. He says, on Saturday mornings, the first sound I hear is my little brother's video game music. I put my head under the pillow, but the boing, boing, swoop, swoop is too much. I might as well get up. I pulled off my sheet and I make some breakfast. What will it be? Cereal? Yes. I take the cinnamon toast crunch off the shelf. When determining the tense of this passage, we can look to the verbs. This will also help us easily define inconsistencies as well. As you can see, I highlighted the verbs in the present tense blue and the past tense in green. There's an unnecessary shift in tense throughout the student's writing. They may not have realized it, or they may have done it purposefully because they thought that it sounded better. Regardless, there should not be inconsistency in tense in order for their train of thought to flow and for the passage to make sense. As a rule of thumb on this rule, the Purdue University Writing Lab says, do not shift from one tense to another if the time frame for each action or state is the same. So if it doesn't change, then the verb choices that they use should not change either. Reminders of this rule may be needed often because this is different than when we normally talk. So when we speak, we tend to shift between tenses naturally. This is different in professional writing, and we need to teach our students that as well. When teaching this to your students, there are several different approaches this can take from, but we are going to address 3 different activities, which are visual scaffolding, guided editing, and verb choice. So the first of these is visual scaffolding. This is a mix between guided discussion and independent discovery. So it'd be a good introduction project for them. So for this activity, give the students slips of paper with different verbs on them from a mentor text. A mentor text is like your ideal text or example that uses tense consistently that we want our students to look to. So take the verbs from that and write them on little sheets of paper. Half of these verbs will be verbs in present tense, and the other half will be those same words in the past tense. So then tell the student to categorize the words in any groups they want. See what they identify as commonalities among these words. So once they have categorized them on their own, prompt them with questions like, are those all nouns? What is the difference about these words that you can see? This will allow them to identify the words as verbs and then sort them accordingly. This provides an avenue for discovery and for them to explore verbs on their own and to see the consistencies and inconsistencies. After that, give them the mentor text and ask them to fill in the appropriate verbs from this list. They may realize that they are supposed to use all the verbs from one column. So after they've categorized them into half present and half past, then they'll realize that they're supposed to use all of the verbs from one side. This process allows them to draw their own conclusions about consistency and tense. They will see that in order for a passage to truly make sense, the verbs must all be in the same tense. Great. Now, a second activity this could be utilized is guided editing. This process begins with a mentor text where you will lead your students in identifying the common tense of the verbs of the text, pointing out the consistency and how it makes sense. You can highlight the verbs to demonstrate the consistency as I have done here in this text. This is a mentor text. You can then pull out a previous piece of writing a student has done and edit it together. You can highlight the different verb tenses with them in their writing in different colors so that the student can identify where the unnecessary shift occurs, just like you did for the mentor text. So that allows them to see the correlation between the mentor text and how they have the consistency of verbs and their own personal writing and maybe the inconsistencies because they can see the color difference of the two of those. Have them edit their paper and then be on the lookout for shift tenses in their future writing, just so they can stick that in the back of their brain and kind of have that in their knowledge as they are continuing to write. This will continue to grow their understanding of unnecessary shifts in tense. It's extremely simple, but it will connect the mentor text with what your students is working on and they're writing right now. From here, you can have them write another piece with this in mind. In general, mentor texts are crucial for students to have an ideal example of how they are to write correctly about things they are learning or are interested in. So this resource by Scholastic is a helpful article to identify the benefits of these passages. It kind of just lays out why we need mentor texts and why we should be utilizing them in our curriculum. Great. Now, finally, another activity to practice consistency in tense is verb choice. This is another discovery activity that allows students to experiment with correct tenses of verbs. Awesome. So for this, we're going to use the same mentor text that we used before. And using this mentor text, you're going to make blank where some of the verbs are. Be intentional to leave a few of the verbs there so that the students will have a reference point as they go. Depends on the grade of your students, but if they're older, maybe encourage them to not have any, like you could just not leave any verbs in there. That will be helpful for them because then they need to reason through, does this make sense with this verb or does it not make sense? Next to these blanks, write out the verb in different tenses for the students to select from. Have them go through this activity and pick which verb they think fits best. Once they're done, ask follow-up questions. Like, which tense did you choose? Does the passage make sense? And why? If they did not choose the same tense for the entire passage, follow up with them and show them that in order for the passage to truly make sense in the same time frame, it must have the same tense throughout the whole thing. After this, they can then look over their own writing, similar to the previous activity, and to identify errors that may be present. Each of these activities can be incorporated into small groups, one-on-one, or writer's workshop, depending on what works best for you and your students. Additional resources for this are found here. These articles provide an abundance of hands-on ways to practice tense consistency for students of all ages, and that other teachers would recommend for you to use with your students. I found them particularly helpful. This first website provides several different activities for teaching verb tense to students of all ages. The second website is from a speech therapist who emphasized the importance of teaching grammar and why behind the verb consistency rather than simple memorization. Offers helpful instructional tips and resources. And Planet Spark does the same thing. Great. So the final thing we will discuss today is one of the 5 pillars of literacy, which is fluency. Fluency is often overlooked because it is not directly related to the decoding or the active reading that students accomplish. So it's less on the phonics, phonemic awareness, but it is more on the overall big picture. However, it contributes greatly to the reading comprehension and general competency of readers. According to Lexia, which is a high-quality research-based program designed to help students develop further skills in reading and other subjects, fluency consists of accuracy, speed, and expression demonstrated in reading. We're going to look at each of these aspects right now and how we can train our students to grow in them. First, accuracy is crucial to assess if students can correctly decode the words. Phonemic awareness, phonics, blending, and many other factors are combined to achieve accurate reading. Lexia defined accuracy as automatic word identification with the application of intonation, rhythm, and phrasing at the text level. The word for this word recognition is called automaticity. Automaticity emphasizes the importance of exposing students to a wide range of words and repeating them in order to reduce the energy used to decode words each time they come across them. So in general, we're just exposing our students to lots of different types of texts, lots of words, so that as they come across them, they are recognizing them This ideology is helpful to incorporate into instruction as long as it is paired with correct understanding of phonemes, blending, and basic decoding. In other words, the students need to be able to sound out the word before they memorize it. So we're not just teaching recognition, but we're teaching how to do that and then teaching word recognition so that they can still sound things out as they come across words that they don't know. A way to practice this is through sight words and exposure to many different genres of text, such as fiction, nonfiction, and many others. This will give students the opportunity to interact and become familiar with common words in order to strengthen their recognized vocabulary. Splash Learn is a helpful online resource that allows students to practice their sight words through different activities, worksheets, and videos. This is a free and easily accessible resource that can be found here. Second, speed is another aspect of fluency. Now, this is not crucial or a point that ought to be emphasized, but it is a sign of strong literacy because it shows that a student is comfortable reading. Each student is different, so the speed that is most comfortable for them may be different than for someone else. There's not really a set time that students should be comfortable reading at until later on. So probably around like third grade, then we begin to emphasize the speed of reading a little bit more. A way to determine how fast a student is reading is to give them a running record assessment. And here's an example of that right here. In this assessment, the student is given a passage with a defined number of words and is told that they will be summarizing the story in their own words. The teacher will start a stopwatch as the student begins reading. The educator will be taking note of the words missed or errors in the student's reading. So you can see those in these markings here on the passage. Once they're finished, the student will summarize the story in their own words to ensure proper reading comprehension. The teacher will take the number of errors, which is this number with an E right here, and the student's time and the number of words in the story and put it into a running record calculator to determine if a student passed the assessment or not. A helpful running record calculator can be found at goodcalculators.com or accessed here. It's very simple, straightforward. There's the boxes for you to just put your information in and get a quick number on whether or not your student passed or not. So then the final part of fluency is expression, which is the ability to read in a way that sounds like spoken language. To develop greater expression in students, they must be exposed to good models of fluent reading by listening to others read. Therefore, it is crucial that teachers and parents are reading to their students a range of types of books at many different levels. It's also important that they're exposed to peer readings. So this can be done through pairing a more advanced reader with a or struggling student so they can hear that more advanced level, but also just peer-to-peer at the same level. It's important for them to be exposed to the fact that everyone is at different paces in their reading, and that will be very helpful to challenge them in that as well. So for an activity, Reader's Theater is another helpful tool for helping students become familiar with these texts. They are to act it out as they read. This makes simple tasks of reading fun and engaging for students, especially those in younger grades. And it also is a confidence boost because as they become more comfortable with the words as they read it, they begin to grow in that and are excited to be expressive. It also is a great opportunity for students to express their creativity and to experiment with this expression in a low-pressure environment. So overall, each of these things contribute to students' fluency, which will allow them to grow in reading comprehension and to bridge the gap between decoding and easily understanding. Here are the main resources I used in this presentation today. Each of these are also helpful resources to reference when seeking to teach verb consistency and fluency. Both consistency in tense and fluency contribute to the ability of students to comprehend what they are reading. So it is crucial for teachers to model and to demonstrate to their students all of these skills. Thank you so much for tuning in and have a great day.